Howdy folks, welcome back to Deck Check. This week we got a good slew of lists. We got some cool stuff going on. We finally have our 2.5 booster, special booster, which means that we are pretty much at the same, we're in the same spot as JP now, right? We haven't hit the unification set yet necessarily, but we are basically unified. So we have a bunch of decks that have been topping local events and some other stuff over here in NA.
Yeah.
I get there. But before we jump into that, just if you're watching this early as a member, thank you so much for supporting us, handsome boys, on the channel. We very, very much appreciate you. We hope you're enjoying this content. Again, let us know if there's any specific lists that you would like to see in the comments down below. Anything that we could try and nab for you guys to try and feature on here. And if you're seeing this when the video goes public later on, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoy this. You should check out other content on our channel if you haven't already. And if you aren't subscribed, think about doing it. It's pretty cool. We appreciate the support. And drop a like on the video if you're enjoying this stuff too. That helps us. It makes it for each like that we get. I hear that there's a legend that one of my hairs grows back.
Help a brother out.
It can only be confirmed by dropping likes. So you know what? It's just something to keep in mind. You know, it's been a while since I've had hair. But anyways, so moving on. Jokes aside, let's jump into this. So first list we have here is a Necromon Ghost list. The author is Last Unicorn. It won a locals over in Germany. I wanted to go over this list because it runs a lot of like the standard Ghost stuff we've been seeing, but I think it's really cool because it's actually split with the Merva engine. We could see Minervamon and Mervamon in there, along with Lilith as well, because she's just a powerful generic, like, you know, purple top end, right? Like, she just good with options and everything, and you have some expensive options in here that she can help make those a bit more affordable. But we see like a lot of like tech cards in here as well, like the Psychmon, that's always really nice. The Blue Marimon is a very powerful card as well from BT11. The Dober X is really good for helping us cycle, and it's a good on play as well to give retail to things, which can work in tandem with Minerva and everything, right? So all really cool stuff there. Necromon, of course, being our sort of main boss monster, who, you know, we have the alt art featured here. It's such a cool card. Like Tonami Kanji cooked, bro. It's so nice. Secure attack +1 execute, all that good stuff. Execute's actually a really cool keyword.
Yeah.
To kind of highlight that. Yeah. It's a brand new keyword that we have with this archetype. Hopefully we get to see more of it as well as we get more Ghost support. But basically at the end of your turn, this Digimon may attack. At the end of that attack, delete this Digimon. Your opponent's unsuspended Digimon can also be attacked with this effect. So that's huge, right? You can control board. Your opponent's not safe if they leave themselves unsuspended. Now keep in mind, it doesn't work like Vortex, where you can swing the turn you're played. You still need like Rush or something like that in order to be able to attack. But it is nice. And then of course, you know, you delete it at the end of it, but the whole deck works with like deleting itself, where you'll have a lot of inheritables of either gaining memory, like the Bakemon level 4, or the Phantomon inheritable of on deletion. You can play level 4 lower Ghost Straight Digimon card from your trash. Necromon himself also lets you play level 5 or lower from the trash, which means you can play out your sources, right? You'll go to the trash, your on deletions will resolve, and then you'll be able to basically spit out your stack from trash to kind of hit the board and, you know, have kind of wide board a little bit potentially. And so in that kind of idea, we see things like Analog Youth, which is a very powerful card, working with that right with on deletions. Alice McCoy works well with deleting other Digimon and giving you cheaper Evo costs. And then Violet being the primary Tamara, of course, you want to see her. And then last thing I'll highlight, and we'll move on, is Apparition Legion, this brand new option card. I think this option card's really good. So it's 8 to play, or use, I guess, and then main by returning up to 9 levels total worth of Digimon cards from your opponent's trash to the bottom of deck. You may play, so this gives you trash control on your opponent, by the way. So this works really almost like it's like a, you know, mini, it's not obviously anywhere near as good as Paladin mode, bottom decking the entirety of trash, but you can kind of get some pieces out of your opponent's trash if you're worried about them using it. You can play one Ghost Straight Digimon card of each of the returned cards levels from your trash without paying the cost, or without paying the costs. Then the Digimon this effect played gain Rush and Blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. And that security just lets you play level 5 or lower Ghost Straight card from your trash, which is good. So just powerful option.
I will say before we just move on to the next deck, this is an interesting list because it's not like your typical like ghost tribal, if you want to call it that. Granted that we don't have like you said, we don't have a lot of ghost support.
Yeah.
If you look at any like outside of BT20 ghost cards, it's like pretty much just like vanillas. You know, they don't really do much, so you don't really slot them in the deck. So it's interesting to see like sort of like you said, sort of like a purple toolboxy that we always end up getting at some point in each meta. I'm curious to see if some of these pieces ended up like bricking you, because you do kind of rely on like seeing stuff with ghost in trait, and like even Blue Meramon is a really good consistency card. It's not ghost. Dobramon X is also not ghost. Same thing with the Minervamon package, you know. So I'm curious to see how it like synced out. I am excited to kind of mess around with Necro, and I have, you know, ideas with it too that are more like ghost tribal. Check out Curiosity's profile on our channel too. She did that a few weeks ago.
The queen.
But yeah, I think it's just an interesting archetype that will only get better with time.
Yeah, I think to your point too, I think that's why they're running so few cards of other things. It's always like a lot of 1s or 2ofs.
Yeah.
Right? I think the idea is just to like have a little bit of an extra engine there to speed us up, because we are missing ghost cards, and they're all generic enough that they work with the rest of the deck, even if the ghost cards don't work with them necessarily. Okay, let's scoot on. Next up,
Scooty scoot.
All you, Brother Bear, with a personal fave for you. Well, the Digimon's a personal fave. Maybe not the way the deck is.
This is NSO, right? This is
no, this is MagnaGar.
No, MagnaGar. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, there we go. Because I was like, huh?
Sorry,
you're giving me NSO.
Sorry. No, I'm doing NSO. Don't worry, we'll get there.
All good. So we got MagnaGuru by Yohei. This was done in Brazil. Got first place at a Tamer battle. Yes, MagnaGar is one of my favorite. Shout out Risu. I know he's also a huge stand for this fella. It's nice to see. I think this is sort of what Bandai intended with some of the hybrid decks, where we're starting to see a lot more of these like multicolored decks or like rainbow decks come into play now, right? Yeah. Like here we have a very interesting red base, which honestly makes a lot of sense. You know, the red package gives you a lot of like draw power. The Flamemon is not like, oh, you're bound to like play, you know, a tamer that says like Takuya, a tamer says Koji. Like it just says a tamer card with with an inherited effect, which is pretty much any of your hybrid tamers. So we see like the JP sprinkled in here because we see a lot of these like yellow, black, yellow, purple pieces, which JP does synergize with. So it's really cool to see that interaction of just like the different colors and the different tamers also coming together, which is sort of, I guess if you want to call it that, like a lore accurate kind of representation of the archetype. Yeah. The Beetlemon and the Metal Kabuterimon are two cards that I feel like just didn't get a lot of love with BT18 or Booster 2.0. They do some interesting things, you know, not being able to, like they give itself some protection. Being able to have access to Digivolve is also very strong in this meta. The only downside is that it goes over like JP, so you do have to run 4 of JP as opposed to like the arguably like better like Koji and the Koichis. But I mean, like I said, still like they have access to a lot of nice things. You have blocker. Rhino Kabuterimon, honestly, I think is a very strong card too. With collision and being able to neg stuff is also pretty nice with the MagnaGarurumon effect. So overall, it's like a pretty nice like MagnaGar list. We've seen Mike run on the channel too, like a multicolored MagnaGar to some pretty decent results. I like that it's almost like a toolboxy hybrid, because when you throw in the Kaisers, the Jet Sylphie, the Rihis, they all add a little bit of like their own flavor of like what they want to do, right? Like Kaiser gives you a little bit of board control. Jet Sylphie gives you that recovery. Rihi lets you play out a tamer, has jamming, and also has that negative 4 KDP inheritable. So they all like do a little bit, and they come together into this like final boss monster, which is MagnaGar, which, you know, we saw that loop sort of idea, but I just don't think it really hit the meta, mainly because MagnaGar being a 5-cost Evo does hurt a little bit. But it's a cool concept, and it's nice to see that it's still like out there, you know.
I gotta say, no matter what happens with this deck, no matter what, the option Darkness to Light, Thunder to Cannon will always be one of the hardest like option names that will ever exist in this card game. It is so fire to me. I love it tickles like
I feel like
my
every
little
time I
edgy
would
bit
play it,
every time.
I'd be like, I'm a darkness to your light and thunder to your cannon.
Yeah, no, it's a like, to go back to your Beetlemon point. Beetlemon's like my favorite of their hybrids.
Yeah.
Like, I always loved Beetle. I think the biggest thing that hurt was that they did the proper color swaps for them that they probably should have been back in BT7, right? Yeah, but realistically, they ended up like trying to follow the way they were patterning out, like, I guess, the tamers' relationships to each other.
Yeah.
Because he's a good card. I mean, the protections are good. Like, he's a decent card. It's just struggles with it. Like, he has to work with this JP, and we don't have any like the other JP doesn't super synergize well with him. It's just tough. It's hard.
Because it would have been cool to see like a green Beetlemon deck that had some immunity to it, similar to like what Tyrant had, right?
Yeah.
That sort of in archetype stuff would have been cool. But hey, I mean, we're here. It's interesting.
It is what it is. Moving forward, at least if we get more Frontier support, hopefully they'll stick with this kind of color and pattern, so we'll actually be able to kind of mess with these other like archetypes more. And maybe we actually get SRs of the other ancients rather than it just being Gray and Garuru that get SRs. A man can dream. Anyways.
Man can dream.
Let's scoot on. Next up, we have, I know what you're thinking, just off the first few cards on the list, but we'll get to it. This is NSO. It's NSO Hybrid is probably a better way to refer to it.
Yeah.
It's this Benjamin's list. It got top 4 at the PPG. I think this is the case tourney, actually. From what it looks like here, based on the date. I could be wrong, though.
Or 23rd?
It got top 4.
This was the case tournament. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what we see here is it's running NSO top end, right? We have the Myotismon and the Piedmon ace there. But the neat thing is so low end we're running a lot of the purple hybrid engine. I'm assuming just for early aggression along with cycle. It's very good for setting up your trash and, you know, just controlling board in general. We see a lot of those kind of rookies that work with that too, with the Ukomon, the Siakomon. This EX8 Siakomon has been insane for the deck, by the way. It's just an insanely good generic purple card that pairs so well with Demi Mera, where it's just draw 2, trash 2. It's such insane cycle.
Yep.
And then we have the Devi just to stay in line with our NSO stuff, just helping us find our pieces that we need. But the little tidbit in here that I think is really cool is actually seeing us run the Arukeni and Mummy package to basically help us spit out free Myotismons, who then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he activates his own your turn effect. Because it's just when your Digimon are played. It's the same thing as like the...
Correct. It's like
Gaussmon and All Force, yeah, like when they're played, yada yada. Yeah. So if you have Piedmon Ace on board already, you can use like your Mummymon and Arukenimon stuff to get the Myotismon out for free and tangent with your Tamer to potentially get your DNA Evo off there and do some crazy stuff, which is cool. It's really neat. It's interesting. But otherwise, like Bolt Baltimon, I think is a card that's kind of slept on. I think he's pretty powerful. It's just a lot of these sort of like these tribal like trait decks like NSO, Nature Spirits, Deep Sabers, they all are just kind of struggling from just needing a bit more to them. I think NSP's biggest issue is more so just like its playstyle in general. It's just kind of struggles, especially with Medieval Gallant running around now. It really has a hard time.
Yeah.
But Bolt Baltimon's a cool card. He's a really cool Digimon in general. It's neat to have him in the card game. Hopefully we'll get more support for this. It's cool that someone found a way to make this work. I mean, getting top 4 at a case tourney with this is pretty sick. It's really, really cool. Like, I'm tempted to try this list out because I wanted to run NSO, but I couldn't find like a good list because the actual like NSO pieces just don't feel very good outside of your top end. So, but yeah, so something to maybe give it a look at. And congrats to Benjamin for getting top 4 on that, by the way. But yeah, I think that's it. Nothing else really to stand out. It's just a lot of generic purple stuff we see with like Jack Raid and everything. So
I'm just tired of purple.
I get it. Hey, I understand, brother. As someone who's been running purple hybrid for the past like month and a half now, after being like, you know what, I'm just tired of coming in third. I want to just win.
Yeah.
But it's shown results. I think I won like 2 locals in a row with purple hybrid, and then just I do pretty good. Anyways, scooting on. Next up.
This is Leo, correct?
Yeah, it's Leo, Brother Bear.
All right, we got Fusa in Brazil. This was a tamer battle, I believe, got first place, so congratulations there. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. We are missing the egg, but I'm assuming it's one of like the generic kind of like green eggs that you use in Leo. But essentially, this is a pretty standard Leomon list. Like, this is not something that's like super juiced up from stuff from like new sets, right? We see a very standard like level 3 lineup with your Leomon for some like consistency, right? Being able to pick up pieces, Elecmon as well. Terrier is just a good staple memory setter, right? And I think this Elecmon here is just there for like a 4K body that like if you're rookie rushing, that hopefully just ends up living or has a higher chance of living, you know? And just rounds out the rookies pretty nicely. You've got your Leomon package rounded out with the Leo X promo, which is really, really good for the deck. And then the Mad Leo and, you know, this whole like Mad Loader Grap stuff where you can just basically send out your Leo, hope the boy dies, play out like multiple bodies, do it all over again, then go into heavy Leo, hope it dies, play out another body, and like keep doing this sort of like, yeah, exactly. And then you throw in the Saber Leomon Ace, which is really good for that, you know, as you're kind of doing those things, right? You can go ahead and get some board control as well. I'm curious, like, if you just throw in like a Medieval Gallant in there too. I'm wondering if that's something that you could probably throw in there as well, right? And then you round out this sort of like hodgepodge of like good Leo support with your Tamers, right? With Mimi, always good for aggression, Analog for good cycle and gaining some memory back as your level 5s do end up dying. You know, HPD is just good, you know, good for cheap Evos, Zubagon for aggression, and then you've got your sort of consistency Evo efficiency cards with the scrambles, the trainings, the boost. And then the X antibody just to give when attacking effects, but also to give heavy Leo an additional source to proc fortitude. So again, like pretty standard Leo stuff that we've seen already, and it's cool to see that it still kind of like holds through the test of time.
Yeah, agreed. I will say as a note too, I know, because I'm sure people will pick up on it. A lot of these lists are technically during like pre-release week of 2.5, but I figured because the past few weeks we've been kind of highlighting the same decks over and over again with like it being like a lot of the 2.5 stuff, and there hasn't really been too much variety just so far outside of like maybe some tech choices, that we'd kind of go back and just kind of like highlight some of the other like sleeper people
totally
been topping, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so that's Leo. I love Leo. Heavy Leomon's such a cool Digimon too. Like he's just like, his design is just so sick. Jumping into the next here. This is like one close to home for me. This was one that I love. Ben remembers these days for me.
I do remember these days.
Devas. Devas, however you want to, you know, 4 sovereigns, however you want to refer to it. Deva, like, doing well. Like, obviously this was before 2.5 as well, but I mean, it got first place at a local over in Spain.
That's not bad.
Running a lot of just the usual Deva stuff. It's pretty similar to what we used to see. The Mega Gargoyles being spliced in there is a nice little tech in there. I think the biggest thing is actually like properly seeing Shoto Mother, because we always ran mothers before for the Alliance,
right?
And everything for early damage with like the EX4 Antila and some other stuff. But being able to run that now with Shoto gives you other openings for the deck, which are really good. And honestly, I think this deck probably has some decent potential working in tangent with things like Medieval Gallant, working with things like Shadow Seraphi. Like there's a lot of different like ace, like top end that you can use with this to do some cool things. And Feng Longmon is still a very powerful card. Like he hits the board and he nukes it. Yeah, he's very strong. So overall, just kind of cool to see Devas kind of just do something. I won't linger too hard on it. I think there's some other stuff that we'll also get access to. I think Genai's House, that option we got that's going to be in the STs, could actually be big for this, because then all of your level 5s are like 10k constantly. If you get it early and it's a decent starter. But, you know, I'm cooking because I do miss playing Devas sometimes. There's an itch there. But we'll scoot on. Congrats to Zajay, or Zyke. I'm sorry if I butcher your name. Last list is by a man known on many fronts. One may call him the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Vang. Our resident, or I would say resident, but you know, he's sort of like the Imperial guy that you go to back in the day. He did recently play in Carta Magica's Ultimate Cup, which was I believe like the last big EX8 event, and he got top 8 there, which is pretty crazy.
Going back to the roots, I know he's been on the Gallant grind as of late, but I think he swapped back to Imperial and got a top 8. So here we go. Yep. The list itself, I think, is a pretty, I wouldn't say like super standard, but it's like it's got the core engine there, right? You've got your Searcher rookies, you've got your promo Vs and Worms for additional like memory efficiency and that extra end of turn DNA. We've seen folks migrate away from this sting, the memory gain BT12 sting, and go more towards the 3-drop sting, which as I played a little bit more Imperial, I actually liked a lot more too, because there's so many times where you just need to get a sting on board, and throwing this guy down for 3 and gaining that memory with either your Tamers, your XV, or both ends up saving you a lot of efficiency there. And then the draw power is also really, really nice. We're seeing the Raidramon and the XVmon as sort of like a standard sort of like dual blue package there. And then it becomes sort of like a Imperialdramon toolbox where you have access to a bunch of very strong level 6 top ends. Starter deck Dragon mode is just so much gas. Being able to either primo into this fella, go for 2, play out your 2 bodies, DNA all over again, gain 2 memory back, do multiple checks is just absolutely filthy. I think BT12 fighter mode is still really, really good too. Being able to bot deck stuff, give check +1, and kind of be, again, additional defense, but also aggression at the same time is really nice. And then Hexablow Medieval Gallant to round out the top ends also makes a lot of sense. You know, Medieval Gallant is just such a good card, and now you have a very easily accessible green level 5 to sometimes just Evo into can be nice. I also just feel like, what was I gonna say? This is interesting because you don't see any of the BT16 Imperialdramon, right? Like, I think a lot of decks now have moved away from that card because more often than not now, you Evo into it and you're like, okay, well now what? Like, what does it really do?
The Dragon mode, right? Is what you're talking about?
Or the Dragon mode, sorry, yeah.
You're fine,
the BT16 Dragon mode.
I think, to your point with that too, I think that honestly, and it's something that I even struggled from before, was that for its all turns effect to actually matter, like you had to not get cleared or digivolved or DP reduced or etc by whatever was being evoed or played, right? Like, it was good at like catching people off guard if they made a mistake, but if someone was like had a level 5 in the back and they're about to evo into like their top end, that's gonna, you know, impact the board, especially with what we have now for top end with things like Gallant, Red Purple Imperial coming up as well, other stuff yada yada that like can, you know, delete things, DP reduce things, de-digivolve, bounce, etc. Its effect definitely was just like less valuable, and so it was more efficient, I think, just to find things that either shut your opponent out in different ways or help you just push more aggression when you're doing your combos.
Well, it was also very good like towards the beginning when it first came out, because for the exact same reason you said, right? It caught people off guard. Like you were in a meta where like trainings were just becoming a thing, and people were like, ooh, I'm gonna use my training.
People weren't used to it.
Sorry, you can't do that because I'm about deck you now. But then as people started to realize what it did, remembered what it does, and like was more aware of it, then it just sort of fell off. Right.
Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah, the rest of the list is, I think, pretty standard. Gabu Bond Ace with a deck that climbs a lot of sources, very, very good. Your Daikins, your Devas. The Jade Memory Boost has become more and more of a staple now in Imperial decks, just for extra search and consistency, as well as just, again, memory gain to be able to slam, for example, this starter deck Stingmon to give yourself that extra Pile swing. And Giga Death. I think some folks migrated away from it. I myself did as well. I still see benefit to it, you know, as it's run, just because it's a good card. It's a good option card to get rid of bodies.
It's a good one of, especially with aces. It's pretty nice. And we have a lot of level 7 aces now too, so it can oftentimes be like a 4-cost option, which is not bad. I am surprised no Paladin mode ace, the Gababon ace over that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I totally agree. I think for me though, like, there's so many times I'm like, oh, this would have been nice to Paladin ace, but like they either got rid of my body or it's like I Paladin aced and I'm like, okay, well,
now what?
I still don't really do anything, and now I'm just like a very vulnerable 5 overflow that could end up punishing me more than anything. So it's just like, like he's good, but it's also like sometimes it just felt sort of you know?
No, I agree. I get it. Yeah, no, it's It's cool though, and like it's just you know what I've come to realize, Dan Vang is literally the most like pro tag name. like it sounds like it'd be the name of a main character in a Digimon anime, genuinely. And I feel like no one would argue with that.
You know what? He kind of reminds me like Cool Boy with the glasses, and he does the little glasses like push up sometimes too. Like, man, he's got that Cool Boy energy.
Or Analog Man. depending on how things. Can you imagine that
like
match?
Anime, like the choom, and the glasses like flash?
True. Dude, I want to see like a fire like TikTok edit of Dan Vang pushing his glasses up, and it's just like, you know, like the very heavily edited like shorts that people do, like anime stuff. That'd be fire with him, and then like Paladin mode like bursting in behind him or something.
Digimon TCG's
Hold up. Hey, trademark. No one take it. We gotta do a short with Dan Vang. But yeah, that's the list. I know it's a lot of older lists that aren't technically part of 2.5 just yet, but it's cool just to kind of like see, you know, as we're officially out of this now and into 2.5, what was still doing well and what I think will still can still hold up with a lot of other things. A lot of these decks are just kind of fun decks to mess around with, and it's cool just to see them kind of occasionally pop up here and there and do neat things.
And it'll also be cool to see if they start to make a comeback after a certain ban list gets announced.
Very true. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. Alrighty, so that's it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, let us know if there's anything else in particular you want to see.
One more.
Oh, what's up?
One more plug.
Just one more plug.
For those watching on Friday, the public, I will be streaming tonight. It is the official release date, right, of 2.5, so I will be opening a box and probably just chilling, playing some games, DCGO, physical games. So I will be live probably around dinner, post-dinner time, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Central, something like that. Check out my Twitch. I'll link in the video description below. We're going to try to use Twitch this time around, but we'll see how things go.
Are you streaming on the Hyper Coliseum Twitch or your personal Twitch?
TBD. Probably personal, but TBD.
Because the Hyper Coliseum one's set up, I think. So we'll figure it out. Anyways,
we'll figure it out.
We'll see you guys. That's it. Go watch Ben's stream later tonight.
Bye.
Or on Friday if you're watching this earlier. Okay, bye.